Okay, so you had a worksheet to do on Friday, and it covered conversions. So if you were in my earlier classes in the morning, I had given you a chart. The chart went from gigameters to nanometers. It's also on page 35 in the book. It's on page 35 in the book, and you'll have to memorize. This. An easy way to memorize this is I'll go ahead and just give you a quick rundown. I think you guys, when we looked at this, we looked at King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, and then on the ends we would have micro, looks like a U, and then nano. On the other end, above kilo, we have a capital M that stands for mega, and a capital G that stands for giga. And when you look at that, the base is 0, when you look at the scientific notation. And then deci is a -1, centis -2, millis a -3, like 10 times 10 to the -3rd, micros a -6, and nanos a -9, the exponent. And then dA would be deca, up above the base, dA, and then that would be a 1 times 10 to the 1st, hectos times 10 to the 2nd, kilos times 10 to the 3rd, megas to the 6th, and gigas to the 9th. Pretty easy to remember. It's just opposite, like on a number line. Okay, you just have to get those prefixes down when you look at it. Okay, so if you had giga and you were using that chart, you would put 1 in front of giga. Remember, we put the way I taught you. And the way I'd like you to do it, everybody does it a little different, but to be consistent with this chart, and what it says on the chart says on the right side, examples, and then they give you always a 1 in front of the prefix. So it'd be 1 gigameter. So it'd be 1, let's say gigameter, is equal to 1 times 10 to the 9th base unit. So it'd be 1 times 10 to the 9th meter. Okay, and then you would use that. If it was centimeter that we're looking at, then we would look at centimeter, and it's to the -2nd. So we would put 1 centimeter, since it's a prefix, and then that would equal 1 times 10 to the -2nd meter. See how that goes? It's pretty simple. Just always put a 1 in front of the prefix when you do these conversions, and then you're always consistent. If we went from, let's say, nanoliter, okay? No nanoliter, so we go 1 nanoliter. We look at our prefix here. This is here is a -9, okay, for nano. So then all we do is we put 1 times 10 to the -9th. So if you notice up above, all these exponents here that we're using are exactly like in the book and exactly like above. 1 nanometer is equal to, or liter, is equal to 1 times 10 to the -9th. If you can keep that in mind, you're never going to mix these up. Okay? Now, for those who maybe do it a different way, or could do it a different way, for like example, for centimeters, some of you have known and memorized that there's 100 centimeters for every 1 meter. Okay? If you want to do it that way, you can, but if you notice we get into these pretty big exponents and that, what we've learned in the past is can work, but it's just too big of numbers, it's too small of numbers. We could actually do this next one, we could do it by switching the number, we can put a 1 in front of meter on this next one. Okay, where then we just switch the sign to nanoliters, and it'd be 1 times 10 to the 9th nanoliters. So you can switch that negative sign into a positive sign if you put a 1 in front of the other, the base unit in this case. So, but I'm going to do all the problems based upon the left-hand side. I am not going to do anything based upon the right-hand side when I do these. So keep that in mind when you're looking at them. But you can switch the sign, negative to positive and positive to negative, if you want to. Like up here, we could actually put a 1 in front of meter. You know, we just switch the number to the other side. So that switches the sign, and this would be 1 times 10 to the minus 9th gigameter. Alright? That's the only difference. You can switch those around, but just be careful when you do that you know what you're doing. Alright? So let's go through just a few of these on this worksheet that you have, just to double check if you're setting them up right. Okay? So on this one we got centimeters. If you look at the chart and do it the same way, I'm going to put centimeters to cancel. I'm not going to put a number in yet. And then up above, what I'm going to, meters. So everybody pretty much can do this. This is a really simple conversion. Most of the time, you guys put 100 centimeters to a meter, so you could do that. You go 100 centimeters for every 1 meter. If you use the chart that I showed you, then what you could do, same thing, centimeters to meters, okay? And if you want to get used to using scientific notation, which would be really, really good to do, then if you use that chart, we put a 1 in front of the prefix all the time, so 1 centimeter. And then up above, we can either put in 0.01, like the book shows, or we can put in 1 times 10 to the minus second. If you look at your chart that we did earlier, take a look at the chart here, you can see centi is to the minus second, so it'd be 1 times 10 to the minus second would go in front of the base unit, and then 1 would go in front of the prefix. So if you want to do that, you sure can. Okay, and the answer that you'd have for this one, of course, is 0.12. Everybody, you have to set it up. Somebody used to moving the prefix. Once you set it up and you want to move the decimal, once you set it up and you want to move the decimal, that's fine, because dividing by 100 is moving 2 places to the left. But I need them set up because in the future you can't move the decimal. Okay? Move the decimal is just either dividing or multiplying, and it moves it left or right. So, okay? I can see how it can be pretty easy to move it, but I need you to set it up first so that you can see how the units will divide out. Okay? On this one, kind of got it set up. Megagrams have to divide out, and then we end up with grams. So then we look at our chart and we say, oh, we were always going to put a 1 in front of megagram. We do that. Then we look at the chart and we find mega is to the 6th. There's a 6 there. So this would be 1 times 10 to the 6th. Well, that's like multiplying it by 1,000,000. If you multiply 1,000,000, you're going to move the decimal 6 places bigger. Okay? So you multiply by 1,000,000, you move the decimal 6 places to the right. Okay? Again, I don't want you to just move decimals left to right. I need you to set it up. So then you can go ahead and either multiply it with scientific notation in your calculator, which I haven't shown you. If you know how to do that, you can use your caret symbol. You can go 1 times 10 and then caret and then put 6 and get it. You can also use an exponent button, which I haven't showed you either. So we would go ahead and multiply by 1,000,000, okay, and then that would move it 6 places to the right. So that would be 5,500. Okay? And then on the bottom, like I said, you can switch those if you want. I don't want to confuse you, but you could always put 1 in front of the other unit. When you do that, then now this down there is 1 times 10 to the minus 6. And still, it would be divided by 1/1,000th place, 0.05 zeros and a 1, and you'd get your same answer, 5,500. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the double step, 2-step. So that would be like number 7. If you go down to number 7, okay, what you want to do is probably go to the base unit when you do these. You can go directly to the unit in 1 step, but I'm not going to show you that right now. I can maybe show you that later. But for right now, since we've been going to the base unit, that's what we're going to continue to do. So if you notice, we want kiloliters to divide out. Go to liters. And then once we go to the base unit liters, we want liters to divide out to go to milliliters. All right, when we do that, then remember, we want to go ahead and put a 1 in front of the prefix. So we're going to put a 1 in front of kiloliter and a 1 in front of milliliter. All right? Pretty easy to do. So anytime it's a prefix, we'll just put a 1 in there. And if we look at our chart on page 35, or look at our number line, we would realize that kilo is times 10 to the third. So this would be 1 times 10 to the third. We're going to multiply it to begin with by 1,000. So then that, if we stop there, it would make it 4.6 at that point. Okay? Then what we want to do, milliliter, we look at that as to the minus third. So this becomes 1 times 10 to the minus third, or 0.001. Right? So then we could divide by 0.001, and what that would do is be like multiplying by 1,000 again. Alright? So then when you do this, 10 to the third, when you multiply it by that, then move the decimal 3 places, so that'd be 4.6. And then when you divide by 0.001, it's like multiplying by 1,000, same thing. And then it would move it 3 more places. So then your answer for that one would be 4,600. Right? If we don't put those scientific notation in and we just want to do it like we kind of normally do, just with normal numbers, we could do that. We can go for kiloliters, we can put 1. And when we do that, then this becomes 1,000. And then down below, what we want to do, if we want to do milliliters, we know there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter. We can do that too. So then we down here we put 1, and then up above we put 1,000. Okay. Now the only thing is, it's not on that chart like that. Okay. On the chart, milli would be 0.001, or 1 times 10 to the minus third. So if you want to do it that way, it's something maybe can do and used to do, and that's fine. So then you would multiply basically by 1,000,000, and you get your same answer. Got one more to do. Then we'll give you the answers to each one. Give you another worksheet to work on. You can work on that worksheet. That worksheet will need to be turned in tomorrow. You'll have to show all your work. Okay, you'll have to show all your units, everything. And then tomorrow we'll start taking a look at significant digits. Okay, significant digits will be discussed, and you can read through tonight. And we're going to skip over to the rules. The rules are pretty, they're not easy to understand. So tomorrow I'll give you, we'll do about 15 to 20 minutes just like this on looking at how you would do what's called significant digits. Significant digits are just measured values, and sometimes the zeros will throw us off, and we need to discuss when we have measurements with zeros, when to count them and when to not, when we start determining how many numbers we need to have in our answer. But we need to finish up this concept first, conversions. So number 8, what I would do is I go to the base unit, milligrams to grams, okay, the first step. In the next step, I would put grams to divide out, since I've done divided out milligrams. And then up above, on that one, I would put micrograms. It's kind of like a U. Again, I don't do my U's very good, but that'd be microgram. And then when you do that, remember we put a 1 in front of the prefix all the time, based on that chart. And then when we do that, we look at the milli, and we see a -3 there. So that would be 1 times 10 to the -3. Or 0.001 we'd multiply by. So that would definitely make it smaller. It'd make it point, and then 4 zeros, 5, we'd stop there. If we would multiply by 0.001 or 1 to the -3rd. Move the placement of the decimal 3 to the left. Then down below, we put microgram. If we go down to microgram, we see there's a -6. So down here we put 1 times 10 to the -6. So when you put to the -6, then what that does is it moves the decimal 6 places to the right. And when we do that, it'd be like multiplying by 1,000,000. Dividing by 1/1,000,000th is like multiplying by 1,000,000. So when we do both of those, we're going to get an answer out when we're done. That is 50. Okay. If we don't do it with exponents, we can go ahead and put 1 milligram down there, or I'm sorry, we could put, you're probably used to putting maybe 1,000 milligrams in 1 gram. Okay, you can do it that way. And then grams to micrograms. Some people would just go ahead and say, well, a gram is bigger, so they'll put a 1 in front of gram, and then up above they would put, switch the sign and go 1 times 10 to the 6 micrograms in a gram, or 1,000,000 micrograms. Okay, you get the same result. So I would really like to use the chart like the one up above. Once we, you can put inside of the notation as 1 times 10 caret symbol, then -6. You'd have to use a small minus sign to do that. But we'll go ahead and go through the answer. The main thing is the setups and how they're worked, how you would work those out. And so we're going to go ahead, we'll go ahead and give you a second worksheet. You can work through that. That will be graded as a formal grade. So do the best you can on that and see what kind of results you get. But you'll have to make sure you finish this worksheet before you start the other one, because some of you may have not started it. I know some of you have it done. You'll have to finish it out, check the answers with the sub, and then you'll get your other worksheet to do for tomorrow and hand that in. And tomorrow we'll do scientific notation.